almost. And even I know, like people I work with, older men who are gay, and they're older, and now their parents are like going to retirement homes or they need special care. It's like the mother always, it's like the gay son always ends up at the end taking care of the mother, and the mother or the father ends up moving in with the gay son because the gay son has the space and the time and the energy, and they have the relationship. Like they have that, they end up with a closer, tighter relationship than really anybody else in the family.
Right. I think part of it's because of the sensitivity, the ability to connect on a different level than maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's just so interesting that it's such a fear for some parents or for some mothers, and then for others, it turns out to be the greatest thing that ever happened.
Although I do have to say, along the Mormon lines, that my mom hasn't been going to church for like, what, 3 years now, just because, so it's not like the Mormon thing was a big aspect of it.
Right.
So did that happen once he told you? Or were you already not going?
3 years before, right?
Because when did you do this? When did this happen?
This was almost 5 months ago.
Oh.
This March.
Very recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like first semester when I was like going through all my church stuff, I would talk to my mom like twice a week and have all these big philosophical debates. We were totally on the same mindset. We agreed and everything. Just talk about stuff. So, a lot of people are like, how did your mom then, if she's Mormon? And it's like, well, it wasn't. She's not your average Mormon.
Well, I was born and raised in the church, and in some way, if I can say, I think part of my own journey was getting out ahead of Tommy enough.
To prepare yourself
to support him where he needed to go. Definitely. I kind of feel like now will be, Tommy will just go screaming past me and I'll be sitting here going, but for the initial stages, my own kind of church journey allowed me to be in a place where I could
keep me sane.
Where I could really
be an outlet.
You could like understand him at that level where, okay, I understand that this is the box that you've been raised in or grown up around, and that it's okay to not to know more than that, to like understand more than that.
Yeah, because
to be informed or educated. You know what I mean? Outside of what you're told to, maybe.
And I had gotten to the point just in the church. Frankly, it was boring. And well, I'm a good student. I've always been, I was a good student of the church, and I went to BYU, and I did all the church history stuff at BYU. I spent a lot of time taking church history classes, and I worked with Ron Esplin. I was doing some research with him, and so I had pretty much been exposed to all the history stuff. And so sometimes people hit that and it's new and shocking and everything, but I had been exposed to it at BYU, and I'd managed to maintain my equilibrium. It hadn't, it somehow just didn't bother me all that much. But I see how it bothers other people. So I didn't have to go over the, oh my gosh, the history isn't what I thought it was hurdle, like other people have, I know. But I had just done all the studying, and I knew I wasn't spiritually where I wanted to be. And I could see the church taking me there. I mean, I kind of read and studied, and I just wasn't feeling like where I wanted to go spiritually, that was happening. So I started going outside of the church, and actually I started reading, Skousen, Max Skousen, who's like the black sheep of the Skousen family. If you can ever get a hold of Max Skousen, do read him. He passed away recently. A wonderful, sweet, wonderful man. And he started kind of leading me out and realizing that there's this whole spiritual world out there that's so much bigger, and people are having experiences that are true and real. And so I can see how the church, you could do that in the church, but you didn't have to. I'd stopped believing that the church was the one and only vehicle through which you could do that. That you could do it in the church, but you didn't have to. And so I was kind of feeling sort of like a heretic anyway, and floating around on the outside of things mentally anyway. And then the divorce was very disrupting, and it was like, I'm tired. I don't have anything to give to the church anymore. I'm just tired. And so I stopped going. But it wasn't because I stopped developing spiritually. It was just because I couldn't.
You weren't learning anything.
I couldn't give out to the church the way you need to live in that culture. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah, and then I started having these, other the other experiences or whatever. But so when Tommy called and said, what did you say the first time in the fall, your first semester at BYU?
You were just talking about something, and I sort of brought up about how the board of trustees for BYU is the quorum of the 12 apostles, so it's like total control, and that kind of freaked me out. And then you said something, I was sort of trying to steer it that way, and you said something about how people have been excommunicated before for expressing contrary beliefs to the church or something, and I was like, oh, and I like named off 5 names of people, and she was like, what have you been reading?
He wasn't telling me anything I didn't know, but it was just something I'd never discussed with him, and I hadn't really discussed what my own spiritual journey.
Do you see the whole church idea on this changing in the future?
I don't know. It seems like they're sort of digging themselves into a pit because
I think so too. They're getting painted into a corner. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
I think it comes back to the whole thing that happened with the blacks. Actually,
right.
Really, I think that you'd think that they have learned from going through that because they went through so much, and people persecuted them, especially society. Like, what are you doing? And you know they've been through that once, and so they've. I mean, it's kind of sad because they have to now backtrack a lot and justify a lot and be accountable for their leadership and what the patriarchy of the church means and what the hierarchy is and all those things. Because if it's if it's divine and you believe in that, then you just have a lot to answer to. Mm-hmm. And so it's. I mean, I don't envy their position. Because of the choices that they made socially, they're right now what's going on in California. I mean, they've donated millions and millions of dollars to that one other group, that family group or whatever. They're the ones that are aggressively pursuing that, and it's just like, how do you heal those wounds for the gay sons and daughters of
other than
faith?
Act like it never happened.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what happens too much. I mean, I think a lot of times, since the church leaders expect the members to be too perfect, and the members expect the church leaders to be too perfect, and it sort of, I think it'd be very, very difficult to be one of the church leaders, but I mean, I couldn't do any better, but...
Especially if you were raised
yeah.
with a different understanding of the world.
Right. Different generation, too.
Yeah.
So true.
But
you think with blacks in the priesthood, how many people everybody's like, so many people left the church, and there was such an uprising, and la 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 la.
But I don't really see the church ever really taking responsibility for anything it's ever done wrong, because it has damaged people, and it continues to damage people, and it's like I mean, I don't think it's too outlandish that, the church leaders can make a mistake, but they won't apologize for anything, they're too focused, it's just like, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but...
Why would they apologize when they're divinely inspired?
Yeah,
that's what it is. I mean, because then if they have to apologize, then they have to humanize themselves and say, actually, because they are humans, and they are great, a lot of them are great leaders and great people, and they're just trying to do the best, but then the minute that they have to come forth and say, oh, made a bad choice on that one, they're now human, and now you have to cut that line between them and God. And which I don't think they want to be seen in that light.
I don't think so either. They need to. It seems like a church would be a hard thing to run. They're trying to keep a pretty tight leash on everybody, but I think the way that things go right now, they're losing too many people, so it's not working out. This above human thing. I think because they are human, and like with treatment of the gays, it seems to me like they have no idea what to do with us, so they're just sort of like, well, just don't do anything that could possibly get you into trouble. If you never do anything, then God can never have anything against you. So just be celibate your whole life, and wait around till we figure it out.
Live in limbo.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But like, even for the longest time, the church was, if not committing all these horrible things like therapy and stuff like that, they were definitely supporting. I mean, it was all happening at BYU, all the abusive stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, eventually it's just like you have to face things, and I think they'll move on and it'll change, and people will just...
I'll be really curious to see where it goes.